Democrats are ramping up their calls for investigations and resignations after a reporter revealed he was added to a group chat with top government officials. That reporter says they were sharing plans to attack Houthi rebels in Yemen.
Today, President Trump and his allies are downplaying the incident. NBC's Alice Barr has more from Washington.
This disrespect for our...
On Capitol Hill, growing outrage over that Signal group chat between top U.S. officials discussing sensitive details of impending airstrikes in Yemen, with a journalist inadvertently added.
This is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology.
While from the White House, President Trump overnight downplayed the discussions.
There was no problem, and the attack was a tremendous success.
National Security Advisor Mike Waltz acknowledging he created the Signal thread.
I take full responsibility. I built the group.
That somehow invited the Atlantic magazine's top editor, Jeffrey Goldberg.
We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened.
Goldberg says the chat included Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, reporting that Hegseth texted information, quote, about targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and attack sequencing 2 hours before U.S. strikes on the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen.
Nobody's texting more plans. I know exactly what I'm doing.
The Atlantic has now released all the texts Goldberg received after repeated claims from President Trump and top officials that they contain no classified information.
So at a certain point, I just felt, let our readers decide for themselves.
Also on the thread, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who faced a grilling in a Senate hearing, both denying any information in the chat was classified.
My communications, to be clear, in a Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful.
There was no classified material that was shared in that
So then
Signal
if there was no
chat.
classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways.
As calls for an investigation grow louder. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Former national security officials say details of planned military operations, including times, targets, and weapons, are by definition classified. Today, the same people who were grilled yesterday in the Senate faced members of the House of Representatives, where they continued to deny that any of the information they accidentally leaked was classified.
The conversation was candid and sensitive, but as the President and National Security Advisor stated, no classified information was shared. There were no sources, methods, locations, or war plans that were shared. This was a standard update to the National Security Cabinet that was provided alongside updates that were given to foreign partners in the region.
Director Gabbard says ideally these conversations happen in person, but that's not always possible. CIA Director John Ratcliffe tried to turn the conversation to perceived successes his agency has carried out.